the EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at the eppodcast.com.
I like this show today. It's a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but it's a solid show. A few different people joining us here on the EP Podcast. We're going to go to Spoken Vine like we do once a month, but you're going to want to hear about some of the stuff they got going on for Valentine's Day. You're going to hear about these special drinks that they've added. You're going to want to hear about what Frank Murray has. We laughed our butts off over there. And the medical segment that we do about once a month with OSF Little Company of Mary. This one's entertaining. Like, I found a funny doctor who's actually doing something I wish most doctors were doing. I bet you wish your doctor were doing this. And Glenn Panuski is going to help us out with the word on the street because the Evergreen Park Historical Commission is making some changes and adding some things. And he's going to talk about some village events, including Flake Fest. It's all brought to you by the First National Bank of Evergreen Park. I was just in there today making a deposit. You walk in, everybody knows your name. It's like Cheers, but a bank. If you didn't watch Cheers, then you're not as old as me, obviously. The First National Bank of Evergreen Park loves Evergreen Park as much as you do. That's why they bring you Total Access Checking. Free ATMs nationwide. I had to use a sketchy ATM just this past week. Really high fee. Did not matter. They just put the fee back in, and it makes it free for me. It costs them money, not me. $300 bonus with qualifying activities when you open up that account. The mobile banking tool's incredible. And there's no overdraft charges. Get in there today. It's old school in the best possible way with all the new school tools. The First National Bank of Evergreen Park at the corner of 95th and Pulaski, member FDIC. And away we go. The EP Podcast at Spoken Vine. Frank Murray from the Evergreen Park Public Library sitting here with me. We're going to drink a little, but not the kind of drinking that you would expect. So we're going to get into that in just a quick moment. And speaking of drinking, why don't we start off real quick with your big thing? Because I want to make sure that people are signing up for this. Because I feel like you're about half full.
Correct.
Like, I went and looked at it the other day. I signed up for the Sip and Sample event that's happening in February. We are less than a month away from this, Saturday, February 22nd, kicking off at 6 o'clock, going until 9:30. And then everybody goes to Frank's house afterwards for the after party, where there will be kegs of beer.
Wild times.
Dancing girls, okay?
It's pretty much whatever's left over after Sip and Sample. Gets,
$40 includes food samples from all over the area. Do you have enough vendors?
Yes.
Are you ready?
We have 9 confirmed vendors.
You have 9 different food vendors. Are they all from around this area?
They're all local, yes.
Okay.
Headlined by the wonderful Spoken Vine.
Yeah.
And then we've got several others that I wrote down on another piece of paper, but TT's down on Kedzie.
They're good. I like TT's.
TT's will be there. Chai Tung. Bourbon Street.
Bourbon Street's coming. What are they bringing?
They're bringing a pasta.
They're bringing a pasta.
Bourbon a la pasta. Ooh. Or pasta a la bourbon. One of the two.
One or the other. And one is pasta flavored as bourbon, and the other one is noodles inside of a glass of bourbon.
Hog Wild is coming to bring some ribs and pulled pork. Okay. And then there's a couple others that I can't remember, and I apologize to our wonderful restaurants. But I wrote it down, and it's not here in front of me.
And then there's beer and wine samples. So do you have any breweries?
Yes.
Do you have wineries? Or you got the Spoken Vine involved?
We have Eris ciders coming.
Okay.
We'll have 90 plus sellers. They're always a sponsor every year, and they donate a bunch of bottles, and that's usually what are going to be the samples out there.
Okay.
But we have Eris cider, Revolution. And then Open Outcry is also donating.
Open Outcry's coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're donating a little bit of like a half keg or something like that.
That's awesome. That sounds awesome. All right. So, and you got live music, right?
Live music, yes.
What do you have coming?
It's a live music band.
Do you know what the name? The band's name is right on the form, Frank. Matt, Zach, and Tom Band. It's written right there. I'm trying to lead you to it. It's right there.
There
it's
it
right
is.
on a piece of paper. There's a cash
Frank,
bar
read
as
your
well.
own promotional flyer before you come on the podcast.
I'm going to just read it for you. You're doing a terrible job. There's a cash bar as well. There's Split the Pot. There's prize baskets. This cash bar thing, though, I mean, like $40, I'm still getting samples, right? And then I go if I want more than the samples.
So whatever's on the tables will be there, and we usually have some additional stuff like some seltzers and things like that.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm going to try to get as much of the samples.
Domestic beer.
Before I start spending money, I want to get all the samples I can. So I'll be there right at 6 o'clock.
Oh, we're watching you, Chris.
Yeah,
I already know how you do the reading programs, so I'm going to be making sure you don't go around all the time.
All right. You can give them a call to get tickets at 708-422-8522, or you can go to the website, which I'm sure Frank needs the flyer for, so I'll just read it, evergreenparklibrary.org. Let's bring Bridget in here from Spoken Vine to start drinking. You need one.
Watch out,
that.
Bridget. Jeez.
You need one. Sip and sample.
Rough crowd here.
Yeah.
My goodness.
How are you?
I'm great. Yeah. You can always come to Spoken Vine before or after the sip and sample.
That's where I'm going.
Yes.
That's where I'm going. This is where I go. I've been telling people that this scene here is something that they should check out, especially guys like me, single men. Okay?
Single men.
Seriously. There's women that come into this place. There's a great bar to sit down and have single women. Well, you want them to be single. Otherwise, their husbands come and find you later.
Because they all live nearby.
But I mean, there's a great bar. There's like a little area where people can sit in couches and talk with each other. Like it really is a nice place to come and meet other people. I've been here on date nights, but I've been here when I'm just single as well and just kind of walked around. And if I'm with somebody that doesn't drink, or if I've decided I don't want to drink, I want to be on my best behavior, you now have mocktails, right?
Yes. These are Curious Elixirs. We've got 5 total spirit-free, alcohol-free cocktails, and we've picked out the number 2 to try, which is a spicy, smoky pineapple margarita.
I picked this one. This was my choice.
Well, I ordered it because I love like jalapeno margaritas. Those are my pineapple jalapeno margaritas are my favorite. So I'm really excited.
Get in there, Frank. We're going to try this because Bridget told me that they hadn't tried any of these yet, right?
Cheers.
Cheers. Here we go.
This is a blind taste test of one of the mocktails. And I'm going to get Frank Murray's opinion of this first.
You can definitely taste the jalapeno spice. Yeah. That hits me right away. And then there's pineapple there. It's very delicious.
Oh, I like that. Here's my problem with mocktails sometimes. They'll just taste like syrup. They're like all the stuff that would have been in there without the alcohol.
This is really good.
This doesn't taste like that. This is enjoyable.
No, it almost has like an herby thing that is almost replacing what you would think of like tequila.
Yes.
So
there's something that actually tastes like there might be alcohol in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I almost want
to
drop some tequila in there. Yeah. That's how good it is.
If I decide I want to drop some alcohol into this.
A little pocket tequila.
As we're at the end of January when this airs and we're going into February, we're going to be talking about February stuff. Some people did the dry January thing and maybe want to stay dry all the time. There are plenty of options here to be able to do that. What do you guys have coming up in February?
Great stuff for Valentine's Day. So the day before Valentine's Day is a Thursday. We're going to do a Galentine's tasting up here at the party table. So that'll be 12 seats. I believe we're going to do a little bit of everything, sparkling reds and whites. And then like with all of our tastings, there's food that's paired with that. And then the day after Valentine's Day, we're going to do couples yoga. We've got a wonderful woman coming in that has done this in the past, has facilitated a couples yoga with small groups. Her name is Wanda from What's Next Solutions, and we can do 10 couples. You work together. It's nothing X-rated, but it is supposed to, increase.
I wasn't thinking it was X-rated until you said that. I was like, oh, they're doing yoga, and then you're like, well, it won't get that crazy, but it could. What are you talking about?
I mean, some people might want to pitch it to their husband, and they're like, I'm not doing that with other people, so we want to make sure that they know.
Yeah,
it's
couple friendly.
It's
couple friendly.
It's couple friendly.
You're not going to be group friendly. There you
friendly.
go.
What if I come and I don't have a partner? Will I be paired up with someone?
No.
I'll try it, right?
Yeah, watch. You got to watch him. He's going to be in the back, and he's background. He's going to be like,
it's rough out
looking
there.
for a partner.
Yeah. All right. How do people sign up?
You can sign up on our website. We'll also be pushing that out on social media. And then with that, we're going to do a sparkling toast right after. And then everybody gets a glass of wine, and we'll have other small plates and meze boards out for snacks afterwards.
All right. If anybody needs a partner for couples yoga, hit me up
Chris.
Hit me up on the DMs. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is delicious.
I'm going to pass her over here because I'm sure she wants to finish her drink. I'm going to be drinking it the entire time. All right, so you did some really interesting stuff. 2024 by the numbers, Evergreen Park Public Library.
So every year we have to report to the Illinois State Library all of our statistics that we did the previous year.
Okay.
So our fiscal year goes from January to December, and then we have 2 months to report all that data. It's part of the requirement, our library certification process. So if I don't do this, Frank gets fired. But this also helps.
And if your numbers are down, if these are rookie numbers, Frank gets fired. Okay.
Yes. A lot of pressure, Chris. A lot of pressure. But no, and what's really important, these numbers, the Illinois State Library compiles them, and then they send them off to the Illinois Museum and Library Services, which is a federal agency, and they use that data to then create federal funding and grants for libraries. So this is really important. A lot of funding comes from these numbers.
And the most impressive number I see on here so far is 96,742 visitors at the library in 2024, but 116,267 total things were borrowed. So you're not only getting people walking in, but they're using it actively.
They're checking it out. So you know me, I got to comment on a couple of things. That 96,000 is actually down. Believe it or not, that's the only number we're down.
That stuff.
I do. I'm very transparent. I'm transparent.
I'm worried about you now. I'm worried about your job.
So here's what's going on.
Yeah.
We had a broken door counter. We had a broken door counter for several months,
and then
that's the excuse I'm getting everybody. And we also have noticed, like, we'll have a group of 10 people walk in, and only 2 people get counted. I'm like, what's going on here? But no, we're extremely happy with the number of people that walked in. That's almost 100,000 people, and like you said, a lot going on.
Top books. It's funny because the number one book that you have on here has been sitting. These books have been sitting on top of my table because my little guy gets them. So the kids led the top books, Plants vs. Zombies. For some reason.
It's a huge graphic novel
love that,
collection.
Right?
Yep.
All right. Lessons in Chemistry, Killers in the Moon, Murders and the Birth of the FBI, top DVD, Paw Patrol. Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. What a weird one because you get that on Amazon.
I know.
And
so obviously people that don't have access to those streaming services.
Mission Impossible still killing it on the DVD rankings.
I think it's the latest one, hopefully.
Okay, that's
I got to go back and look at that.
And your top download e-audio book is something titled "I'm Glad My Mom Died."
Yeah, that's the e-audiobook one. Yeah,
it's a little weird, but that's the number one. That out here in Evergreen Park, the number one thing that people are downloading is something called "I'm Glad My Mom Died."
That was I think that was over that was about 40 circulations too. So it was a pretty well listened to one.
All right, so this is all great stuff. If we went through it all, I think it'd be a whole show.
It would easily be a whole show.
Right. So
we can dissect that later. Can
you look this up on the website?
So the great question. We are about to publish it. We're finalizing the. We just got to update some pictures and everything on it, and we'll be having it on the website. We'll also share it on our e-blast and in our summer newsletter because we don't have the space to fit it in our spring newsletter. And the summer newsletter will be published there as well.
What do we have going on in the month of February?
Well, first I want to give a quick shout out to we're having our 3rd annual job fair. We're teaming up with the Evergreen Park Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And we're hosting a job fair on Sunday, March 9th from 1 to 3 p.m. We already have 9 businesses participating so far. The Village of Evergreen Park will be there. Culver's of Evergreen Park, OSF Healthcare, Arrow Special Education, Evergreen Park District 124, the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, Richley Vans, Mariano's, and Blue Cap are all signed up. So if you're listening to this, you're a local business that would like to sign up, you can do so from our website. And hurry up because we have about 6 more spot tables that we can fill.
Okay.
So job seekers that'll be coming, they'll get the chance to interact, obviously, and see what opportunities are available. But we also will have live resume reviewers in person there that you can sit down. They'll go over the resume with you, tell you what you can improve or change. And then you'll also have the opportunity to get some professional headshot. All right, so a couple things I want to mention for our youth out there. I mentioned it last time, but our Winter Reading Bingo Challenge is going on from January 2nd to February 28th. Just got to complete 5 challenges. We're also in the month of February, from February 1 to February 28, we're having an I Spy Library Challenge. In our children's display book area, we're turning that into like a page you see in the I Spy books. There'll be a lot of things that you have to find in there. And there will be a completion prize for that as well. And Chris, did you know that February 1st is National Take Your Kid to the Library Day?
There's a day for taking your kid to the library. I think you made that up.
Yeah.
I think a bunch of librarians got into a dark room and tried to figure out how they could get more people in the library.
How else can we get people?
Yeah,
I know.
Right. Okay.
This is easy.
So I'm supposed to take my kid to the library.
Take your kid to the library day. Saturday, February 1st, all day. We're going to be having snacks, crafts, and all other fun activities. The two big activities that we have. This one, Celebrate Black Joy with Nanny Nikki. On Saturday, February 1st, obviously at 10:30 a.m. It's for ages 7 and under. We're going to have all sorts of high-energy sing-alongs, dancing, puppets, and more. And then we have El Mago Bilingual Magic Show. That's going to be all ages at 1 p.m.
Okay.
And El Mago is going to be entertaining everyone with his magic tricks. And what's really cool about this, he's going to present it in English and Spanish.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. That seems to cover the kids.
Yes. Well,
okay.
And obviously it's Valentine's Day too in February, right?
Right.
With the kids, we're going to have a Valentine slime party. And that's Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. So instead of making glitter slime at your home and ruining your carpet and whatnot and all the crevices in your home, come to the library and do it with us.
Right.
And ruin the library stuff. That's going to be, again, Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. Oh, so we're also going to be having goodies. We also came across a chocolate fountain. Don't ask me where we got it from, where we acquired it from.
You have a chocolate fountain at
We
the
have
library?
a chocolate fountain that we bring out for special occasions.
Hold on.
And it will be there for this Valentine's Day.
Hold on a second. Mm-hmm. There's a chocolate fountain in the library. It resides there. Is it always running with chocolate?
No.
Or do you turn it off?
Yeah, we have to turn it off. The budget does not allow it. Yeah. 24/7 streaming chocolate.
Somebody comes into the library looking for Frank. Yeah. Hold on a second. He comes walking out, chocolate streaming down his beard.
All over.
I was just
Where's
in the fountain.
he been?
I was just in the fountain.
Chris, we're more than just books, right? Teens, lunch and learn. We have a financial literacy class for college-bound students. That's going to be Saturday, February 15th at noon. We have the wonderful folks over at Marquette Bank coming in to talk with college-bound students about budgeting, saving money, credit scores, and how you can pay for college.
Yeah.
And we'll have, obviously, it's a lunch and learn, so a lunch will be provided as well.
There you go. Get over to Spoken Vine, northeast corner of 95th and Kedzie, and you can check them out at SpokenVineWines.com and the events they were talking about. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them. I'm in Little Company of Mary. Actually, I'm in the, what is the name of this pavilion?
Mary Potter Pavilion.
Mary Potter Pavilion over at OSF Little Company of Mary here in Evergreen Park. Dr. Ginny Hendricks is sitting with me. And we're in one of the back offices right now because,
yes.
I don't want to go into one of the exam rooms, cause trouble, make a mess, contaminate something. I live that podcaster's lifestyle. But you are essentially, they called you a provider, same as a general practitioner, right? You're a doctor who sees patients about any kind of ailments they might be having.
Yep. So I'm a family medicine provider, which
Okay.
means I see people from birth to death.
Hopefully not that quick.
Hopefully not that quick. Yes. And so I do not at this point in my life provide any obstetrical care. So if people become pregnant, then I send them to an obstetric doctor. But otherwise, I see newborns. I see newborns in the hospital when they're born.
So you start right at the beginning because my kids had a pediatrician. I had a pediatrician.
Yep.
I had a guy we went to until I was 18 years old, and I felt weird going to him because he kept meowing in my ear when he was checking it, because he was still doing the little kid thing,
Yeah.
but all he did was little kids,
Yeah.
and the doctors that my kids see only do little kids, but you start right at the beginning, the whole way.
The whole way. So, if my patients or if new patients have new babies and they say, hey, I'm going to have a baby, I'd like you to be the baby's doctor, then I'll see them here at the hospital if they're born here at Little Company. Otherwise, we'll see them for their first visit a few days after life here in the office. And the beautiful thing about family doctors is, one of your kids gets strep, you call in the next day, you're like, listen, remember we saw, Tommy the other day with strep. Guess what I've got today?
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, we know you're our medical, you're on our medical team and everything. let's go ahead and just treat you.
Right. You don't need to go back for it. That's always one of the more frustrating things for me is that, like, look, it's going through the whole house.
Yes.
I have the same symptoms.
Yes.
Do you really need me to come drive out there?
But if you're seeing a pediatrician, then they're like, well, I'm sorry, you're not our patient, so we can't, legally treat you.
That makes an awful lot of sense. So you're basically taking care of the whole family.
Yep.
And then you have the perk of being in the hospital. Like here at OSF, I mean, this pavilion is, I don't know, does it connect? Or do you have to go outside?
There is a walkway.
Okay, so there's a way for you to get in there. But you can just walk over if there's a patient of yours in the hospital with something and almost not only check on them, right? But I mean, if they're in the hospital, they may need a surgery, they may need something else, but you're still their primary. You can kind of step in and advocate. You can make sure it's going in the right direction.
Actually, more so. I actually admit my own patient. I am your attending provider when you're in the hospital. So if my patients who I've seen here in the office, they get admitted for any reason to the hospital, they are still under my care. And so I direct the entire team. If they need a cardiologist, I'll bring that cardiologist in. If they need a surgery, I'll bring that surgeon in. I take care of them. And then, I see them in the office, I see them in the hospital, I'll see them in the office to follow up, and I'm there the whole way. Occasionally I take a day off, somebody else fills
Right, yeah.
But otherwise I know exactly what's going on the entire time.
That's important because that's one of my biggest complaints about modern medicine is the idea that you are constantly going from one doctor to another doctor to another doctor to a specialist to a hospital to wherever you're going. You're constantly reminding them of everything that's going on. Yep. You might miss something. Nobody's sharing the same documents. Mm-hmm. And then you get this situation my mother had, not at Little Company. Okay, she got taken by ambulance to another nearby hospital here. And she ends up in there and she had just had a surgery. It was a planned surgery. She had a knee replaced. They put her on medicine. And there were so many doctors involved that nobody noticed that the painkiller medication was going to interact badly with the medicine she takes for other ailments. And she forgot who she was. Mm-hmm. And then they start thinking maybe she has a stroke. Yep. And then you can't get all the different doctors on the phone. And she was, for something that could have taken an hour and a half, she was in there for over 24 hours.
Yep.
Sitting in a hallway because the doctor who was in charge changed almost every couple of hours. So what you're describing is how I think it should be, because that's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. It's not the way that medicine is moving. Medicine is definitely moving to a hospitalist team that only cares for you in the hospital. And that's a lot about like work-life balance for doctors and all that kind of stuff. But, my partner and I and a couple of the other doctors here at Little Company, we think that this is important. We think that people should have continuity of care because it does reduce medical errors. And there's been huge improvements in the last few years about medical records, and now we do share medical records with all the local hospitals. And so the information should be there, but it's very difficult sometimes to access and to find. It's there, but somebody has to go digging through all of this.
Is that one of the harder things as a doctor with a new patient? Like trying to make sure you understand the full history. Like I came from the belief years ago that as embarrassing as something may be, I'm going to say it. Like I will talk about anything with my doctor because I would go in and tell the mechanic what's wrong with the car.
Exactly.
So I'm going to tell him everything, but I also get the idea that not a lot of people do that.
And I tell people, I say, if you don't tell me, I don't know. I can't read your mind. And so yes, we have to go through it all. And I think that, somebody has to take the time when you come in as a new patient and update our local records. But then you also have to go in and sort through all of the old stuff that's there and say, is this really a true problem, or is this something they were trying to rule out at some point? And it does take time, and that's one of the things that we struggle with is scheduling new patients because they're 40-minute slots. That patient comes in, they have to register at the front desk, they have to go through a medical history with my medical assistant, and then I come in and make sure all of that stuff is correct. And so those appointments are long appointments, and people don't always love the fact that they might have to wait a week or so for that appointment. But we do think that that's really important, that we have things right, so that mistakes are not made.
You wrote a couple of notes. We're going to get to them in one quick second, but I do have a question I've always wanted to ask a doctor. And I really have. And I think everybody that's ever gone to a doctor's office wants to ask this question. Okay, why is it that some doctors, when I make an appointment to see them at 2, I see them at 2? And why is it sometimes when I make an appointment to see them at 2, I maybe get into a room at 2:45, and then they might finally saunter in at 3:30? And what kind of doctor are you?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say today because there's a podcast screwing up your schedule probably right now.
No, this is my lunch break.
Okay, good.
You're in the slot.
But you get that, right? Some doctors are right on it. Like you have a 2:00 appointment, they're going to see you at 2:00. And some of them, it's like 2:00 is when they're like, oh, he's in the waiting room. Please enjoy this music for the next hour. Yeah.
Well, so my schedule, I essentially have somebody who's scheduled every 20 minutes.
Okay.
But not everybody has a 20-minute problem, and somebody may walk in and say, hey doc, I got some shortness of breath, and it just started this morning, and then that kind of blows my schedule up because now I'm thinking, okay, is this person having a heart attack? Are they having a pulmonary embolism? And that may take 30 minutes. It may take 45 minutes to get through that patient and get everything situated. I may need to make phone calls to the pharmacy. I may need to call the hospital and get them an admission, all of that kind of stuff. And then, my next patient's already 20 minutes past their visit, and maybe they have a couple extra issues to follow up on.
God, these people with their problems.
But so, sometimes it can be cumulative. And so definitely, if you're like super, you have to have appointments like, go quickly. I think first thing in the morning is usually always, people usually start on time.
Things haven't gotten screwed up yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like stuff has not started to snowball. And then like after our lunch, and so, but my lunch can be, some days it can be noon, some days it could be 3 p.m. if I'm working, one night until 7.
Right.
So, you can always ask, hey, what's the doctor's lunch break?
Yeah, I'd like to come right after the lunch when she's refreshed, she's fed, and she's not dealing with a bunch of garbage. Right, exactly, and happy. So I think you wrote down a couple things that you're seeing the most of or that you want to talk about. What do we got here?
Well, I think our main topic today that we want to talk about was diabetes.
Okay.
Because probably about 12% of Americans have diabetes.
This is what I threaten my kids with every time they want to eat more sweets.
Right.
I'm like, you're going to get diabetes. I'm a jerk.
Right? But it's so hard. Like when you have kids, like my kids are like, well, are we going for ice cream? Are we going for shaved ice? Are we going to Nicky's to have like
don't we get a treat?
Yeah.
I didn't get a treat every night. Yeah.
And so, probably over 50% of those people who do have true diabetes are undiagnosed, and that's a huge problem because there's a lot of health concerns that come from diabetes. We worry about eyes, we worry about kidneys, we worry about brains and nerves and all this other stuff.
And it's a blood test, right? It's all it is, right?
Yes.
I get... There's a printer going off next to us. I love that. I get a blood test every year, okay? Because there's so many different reasons to get one. I want to check all my cholesterol. I want to check my blood sugar. I want to check everything that's going on. I get everything I could possibly have checked out. I'm surprised a lot of people don't do that.
A lot of people don't do it. 80%
it just seems silly to me.
80% of people who have pre-diabetes have no clue about it.
You get an oil change every so many miles and every so many months. And you're telling me people aren't going, you know what, I'm going to walk in there.
No, people are like, hey, it's been a couple of years since I've seen a doctor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Which makes, and so like it's an easy visit if you do it every year. You come in, they say, hey, did you get your mammogram? Did you get your pap smear? Did you get your colonoscopy? Get some labs.
I used to hate going in because they were going to weigh me.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was it. I'm going to go in, I'm going to get shamed because I used to be bigger. And I think that's one of the things that used to keep me away. But then I just did the trick of like, don't look at it. And they're not going to tell me. Yeah. And then they just want to check all the stuff. And then you just kind of move on. And then eventually I lost the weight. So, yeah.
And I have patients who are like, no, I don't want to be weighed. Perfect. Keep walking.
That's awesome.
And
awesome.
we're, and
you're making a case for me to switch to you, Doc. You're like, you're gonna be here when I'm in the hospital.
Hopefully you're not gonna be in the hospital.
You're gonna listen to all my problems. If I see you after lunch, I'm not gonna have to wait very long. I don't even have to know what I weigh. This is great.
See?
Yeah.
But a lot of people are coming in talking about weight recently because there are a lot of new medications on the market and everything, and so people are interested in that. And we see it.
What do you think? What do you think? Would you tell somebody to take that Ozempic stuff? Because they look like skeletons. They look like skeletons, these Hollywood people.
It's all how you take it.
All their faces are
for diabetes.
Okay.
If you're using it for weight loss, it comes under a brand name called Wegovy.
Yeah, but people are using it.
People are using it, yes. And so, some of it depends on how much you're using, what dose you're using, how you're eating with all of it, because people do lose the muscle mass, and so you get the flat butt and all that kind of stuff.
Right, because everything goes away.
Everything goes away.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
But, depending on where you're starting from, a lot of people are interested.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah. I don't want to be flat, though. I got to have a little curve. What else do we have here before we let you go?
They had also asked me to talk about some testing for heart disease and other things, and so
that's very smart to do. I think we're gonna have a cardiologist on here in a future episode very soon. Okay. But I will tell you a little personal story here, and maybe you can kind of comment on. I would say it was about 2-3 years ago. I'm carrying a little bit more weight. I go in to see my doctor. I tell him everything. They're doing the blood test. He goes, your cholesterol's a little high, your blood pressure's a little high, and I think you need to lose a little bit of weight, and you need to get a little bit more exercise, but I'd like you to go get this scan that looks at just your heart valves and sees if there's anything going on. And when it came back, he said you have a little bit of plaque in one of your arteries. You're not going to die. You're going to be fine. But like if you keep doing what you're doing, you will have a problem 10, 15 years from now. So lose weight and stop eating all the ultra-processed foods because that's the key. And I made a real change in my diet, what I was actually eating. It doesn't mean I won't have a hot dog every once in a while. But like I really changed the majority of the food that I was intaking, cut out fast food, all this other stuff like that, and suddenly saw a major change. And that's probably the kind of thing you're talking about because people hear what you're talking about. They go, well, I don't have any chest pains and I run, so I must be fine. And that's not the case.
No. And that's the beauty of coming in for a yearly, exam. We talk about what's going on. We check to make sure that we catch things early because a lot of times if you catch this stuff early, you can head it off. Dietary changes, exercise changes are hugely beneficial. And then you're not looking at a handful of pills every day, but you have to know it's a problem to address the problem.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, if somebody wants you as their doctor or they want to come over here and see if they want a doctor at OSF, is it real simple?
Just call us.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have multiple locations. There's locations in Burbank. There's Chicago locations. We're here in Evergreen Park. There's a Mount Greenwood location. They also have Oak Lawn. And then Palos Heights is their other location.
Okay.
And so
OSF is everywhere.
OSF is everywhere.
We're on the EP podcast, but OSF's all over the south side for sure. And there's doctors like you that are attached to the hospital, and it's incredible to me that something so simple is not used so often, right? That you are the kind of doctor that it's almost old school. You're like from the 1880s. Okay, old Doc Hendricks comes by with her bag and she births you. She takes care of your whole life. She helps out with the surgery and she stands there when they lower you into the ground. That's just
hopefully not too soon. We're not lowering anybody in the ground.
Dr. Ginny Hendricks, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Remember must-see TV when like Friends and Seinfeld were on NBC and they'd supersize the episodes? I think they did that with The Office too. A lot of TV references. That's what it's like today on the EP podcast. We're going to keep going. One of the guests we had booked missed their episode around the holidays, so we're catching up. Supersized episode. Word on the street time, real quick, Sunday, February 2nd at Evergreen Park Community High School. It's the Sunday Shootout, a full day of high school boys basketball for $10. You got St. Patrick versus Stagg at noon, 1:30 De La Salle versus Evergreen Park, 3 o'clock St. Lawrence versus Glenbard North, and then Mount Carmel takes on Oak Lawn at 4:30 at EPCHS. The rest of the word on the street is brought to you by our next guest. Sitting down here at the 9-foot homemade oak bar, we have a good friend who we have not seen in a little bit. Glenn Panuski is here from the Village. How are you, buddy?
I'm very good. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Happy New Year. Everybody keeps giving me Happy New Year's. I feel like I'm going to be getting them all the way into like March.
And we're 21 days in, so it's going to have to last for another, 300? I can't do the
It's going to be going on forever. Okay, so you have a few things you want to talk about that's going on with the Village and the community center. But before we get into that, one of the main reasons I had you down here is the Historical Commission. Now, I've talked with George Peso before. We've gone and visited where they have their main hub where you can walk through and see pictures of old Evergreen Park, and they have different things on display. But there's some new stuff going on or some things that you're working on. What is it?
Well, yeah, I have been kind of tasked in my position to help push them out there, a little more. And they're great at what they do. I mean, I'm not the Historical Commission. That commission is made up of those people that have done the work. Were you around? Were you doing the podcast when they did that 125th back in, it was 18? They had the big display up in
No, well, we launched in 18.
Okay.
So we might have talked about it in the fall. That might have been one of the very early episodes.
It was in August of 2018.
Right, so we launched at the end of August.
He had the full display up there in the auditorium, and it was jaw-dropping. And unfortunately, we couldn't keep it. There was only like a 2-week thing.
Right.
So he does have the museum in the senior center now, and he is open the first and third Saturdays of every month from 10 a.m. to 3. But they wanted me, and the mayor, wanted me to help push them out there a little bit. And so I'm going to help devise them a Facebook page and a revised web page. But you see, I am of the mindset of don't dress up the store window unless you've got something really solid in the store to sell. And so, I sat down with them. We've got a couple of things in the hopper. The first thing is, again, they are there the first and third Saturdays of every month. I tried to get them to open up like one afternoon during the week, because you do have the recreation department bringing in the dance classes, and sometimes the parents come in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure that the access is for people depending on what their schedule is.
If they want it.
I get that. But what are they going to be doing?
Okay, the first thing is they're going to continue their outreach to schools. And for that matter, I am actually working on a history book geared towards the elementary.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Just a pamphlet, nothing major. Not going to charge for it. I just want to get a bunch of copies. It'll, of course, be
just like a kid's history book of Evergreen Park.
Yeah, just a few pages. The big thing, though, which is kind of cool, is we're starting a program called Evergreen Park Stories.
Okay.
And what this is years ago, we're talking 40 years ago, one of the members, Virginia Roble, who was the OCS director at the time, she had done audio interviews with a lot of old-timers who at that time were talking about stuff in Evergreen Park at the beginning of the 20th century. So some of these memories of 1910, 1915, and those were put into memory books, which are kind of languishing now. So what we're doing is I've started a program where I've got some of my theater people who are taking those stories, doing dramatic audio readings of them, playing that person who wrote that story. And then I'm transporting that into video, where I'm adding pictures, music, sound effects, basically doing a series of 4 or 5 minute little documentaries. We're not being Ken Burns here, but it just actually brings these to life a little bit. So you're going to start see these on the website very soon. I've got the first couple recorded from my theater people, but then what we're going to do to try to get the community a little more interactive is we're going to come out and say, hey, would you like to come in and read, the memoirs of whatever lady or man? You just come in, you just read it, fluent reader, and then, like I say, we will take that and then make a little video out of it. So that's where we're going with this. And again, these will all be on the website, the Facebook pages.
Okay.
But in August, we're to help commemorate the 150th birthday of the very first school building here in Evergreen Park. So that's a long
time ago. That'd be one of those like single buildings, right? That'd be one of those.
The Little Red Schoolhouse on 95th and Sawyer was built in 1875. So we're at 150 now.
Yeah.
And so to help that, what they're going to do is they're going to take that display in August and expand it into the rest of the dining room, and under the header of Evergreen Park Days. So they'll have a much bigger display for a week, 10 days. We'll have a little audio-visual thing going, a little more interactive.
Do you get a good crowd for these things? I've gone through it, and I got to say honestly that I actually enjoy it. I know that not people might listen to this and think to themselves all right, that's cool. I don't really have time to go do that. But it is interesting to kind of go back in time and understand the village. I think to myself, if it was like a small town that was out in the middle of nowhere, you get more play with it because it's like a singular area. Whereas with the village of Evergreen Park, you're surrounded on 3 sides by Chicago. It almost feels like just a continuation of all the different neighborhoods. Do you get a response still? Do you get are people going to show up for those days in droves? What are you expecting?
Well, when they had the 125th, they were, because it was so new, they had a great turnout. And I think, because he's in a limited area now with not a lot of foot traffic, that's why we got to do some things, to help promote it.
Because it's over where the senior center, right? They're in the senior center, and you can get kind of lost trying to not only find that. That's on Homan between 95th and Klein Park. And
95-47.
Right. So you can walk in there, but then once you walk in there, a lot of that stuff is further in. You got to kind of have to walk through other areas before you find where the Historical Commission is. So if I'm not mistaken, you go into the parking lot that's in the back. You go down into the main doors, and then you continue through the hallway and you walk through a cafeteria that sometimes is made up as other things, and then you find this room.
Right.
And it's wonderful that we have it, but it's also something that not a lot of people know about and how to find.
Right, exactly. And so when we do these, in August, we do these Evergreen Park Days, that will pretty much be that whole dining room. And of course, we'll have that entrance dressed up and make it a little more inviting. And they'll have some audiovisual things, interaction. And then what we'll do probably for a couple of the days in the middle of that, with these Evergreen stories that I've referenced before, we will do a little stage presentation upstairs. We'll have some of the actors playing these parts in costume with some music under the stage lights. So, again, it's to make this accessible, again, not only to the schools, to try to pique the kids' interest, because if you read some of these stories, some of them are pretty interesting. That some of what people had to go through back in the early days. I mean, and I'm sure George has told you, 95th Street, mud road with ditches on either side, nothing at all what 1220 looks like now. So again, my perspective, me being a dramatist, is taking this stuff and making it really interesting so that a kid could pick up a pamphlet, read a couple paragraphs, and think, hey, this is really cool, and explore it further with the stuff that we're developing online, the Facebook and the web page.
It's very interesting. I mean, they're trying their best to outreach from the Historical Commission,
right?
And they got to kind of do it in different ways. And you can't just set up a display and just say our hours are such and such anymore. You got to find a way to get it out there.
Right. You put enough of it out there to make it interesting, and then hopefully the people will follow up and let me read more about that. Let me come over and take a look at you, because if you go through what their display room now, you'll go take a look at some nice pictures. But we've got to do something to make it very interactive.
That makes an awful lot of sense. Okay, so now you have other stuff you're doing at the community center, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, in the Recreation Department, of course, on February 1st, they've got the Open Skate, the Flake Fest over at the Capital.
I always forget about Flake Fest. Like, we just had the guys in that basically run that rink. Right. And they were talking about the hockey stuff, and I'm sure they brought it up, but it's like, this is the festival I always forget about, because you got Oktoberfest. It's like the time for it. You got the festival they did this year. I know they renamed it. That was around the holidays.
Right.
You have even the new day in the park thing with the food trucks and everything like that. That's
a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's on a Thursday. Flake Fest, sometimes I feel like the weather is so cold when it comes around that not everybody kind of remembers or thinks I want to go out there, because they do the ice sculptures and they'll have the rink open. They'll have it's a lot of fun.
Open skate from. But I
don't feel like it gets the same buzz.
No, because if by February 1st you are tired of winter, this Flake Fest is the last thing that you want to hear.
Glenn.
I know.
I hate winter.
OCS they are having another senior luncheon on Thursday, February the 20th at 11 a.m. Speakers include the Evergreen Park Police Department, who will be talking to you about fraud prevention. It is a pork loin lunch, followed by a fellow named Rex Newell, who is an antique appraiser. So you can give us a call at the office, 708-422-8776. It's a $10 ticket, all inclusive for all that fun stuff. And of course, Paisha doesn't stop at the youth department. She's got a creative hour set for the 6th of February on a Thursday at 4:30. Come and put together a fabric collage Valentine. She's got cookie decorating on the 14th itself, 3:30 to 5. And of course, she's got her continuing open gym and volleyball. And last but not least, we got theater. We have scheduled for in middle of May the Agatha Christie thriller And Then There Were None. We'll do our youth musical in September. And then in November, a couple of years ago, we had a fella came in and did a great Abraham Lincoln performance. And that was really well attended, only had him one night. And so we're going to get him back. So a lot going on. Hopefully try to nab everybody's interest level.
I think you got a lot going on. Glenn Panuski telling us all about the Historical Commission, what's going on, and what's going on over at the Rec Center. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
It's the EP Podcast. All things Evergreen Park. It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.